For many years, men over the age of 50 have been told a simple and discouraging story. That loss of strength, reduced performance, and changes in sexual function are just a normal part of getting older. Over time, this idea becomes so common that it feels unquestionable. Men stop asking why things changed and begin to believe that decline is inevitable. But modern understanding of the body suggests a very different explanation. The core issue is not age itself, it is circulation. As the body gets older, the vascular system often becomes less efficient. Blood vessels may lose flexibility. Low-level inflammation can increase. The inner lining of the arteries, known as the endothelium, may not function as smoothly as it once did. These gradual changes can limit how easily blood flows through the body. When circulation slows, tissues that depend on strong and responsive blood flow are affected first. One of those tissues is the penis. Its function depends almost entirely on healthy circulation. This means that even when desire, interest, and emotional connection are still present, the body may struggle to respond physically. Many men experience confusion and frustration because their mind feels willing, but their body feels uncooperative. This disconnect is not a failure of masculinity or motivation. It is often a sign that blood flow is not reaching where it needs to go. By shifting the focus away from age and towards circulation, the conversation changes completely. Aging becomes a context, not a sentence. Circulation is not fixed. It is influenced by daily habits, metabolic health, and vascular support. When blood flow improves, the body often regains functions that seemed lost. This reframing matters because it replaces shame with understanding and hopelessness with possibility. Men are not broken. Their bodies are responding logically to internal conditions. When those conditions improve, the body can adapt. The message is not about promises or guarantees. It is about recognizing that decline is not always permanent. With the right internal signals and consistent support, the body still has the capacity to recover and function more effectively over time. Once we understand that circulation plays a central role in physical performance, the next step is understanding how erectile function actually works. This is where many misunderstandings begin. For years, men have been led to believe that erections are driven by desire, confidence, or mental focus. When problems appear, the natural reaction is to try harder, worry more, or blame stress and mindset. But biology tells a different story. An erection is not created by willpower. It is created by blood flow. The penis is not a muscle that can be strengthened through effort or control. It is made up of specialized tissue and very small arteries that respond to changes in circulation. When the body sends the right signals, these arteries open, blood flows in, and firmness occurs. When those signals are weak or delayed, the response is limited no matter how strong desire may be. What makes this especially important is the size of these blood vessels. Penile arteries are among the smallest in the entire body. Because of their size, they are often the first to be affected when circulation begins to decline. Even subtle changes in vascular health can have noticeable effects. A small reduction in blood flow can lead to a much larger change in function. This is why erectile changes often appear before other signs of cardiovascular stress. Understanding this removes a heavy psychological burden. Erectile difficulties are not a personal failure. They are not a reflection of masculinity, effort, or emotional connection. They are a mechanical response to how efficiently blood can move through the vascular system. When blood flow is limited, the result is predictable. This perspective also helps reduce anxiety, which can intensify the problem. Worry activates stress responses that further restrict circulation. When men recognize that the issue is physical rather than mental, tension often decreases. This creates space for a more constructive approach. By focusing on vascular health instead of pressure or self-blame, men become more open to sustainable solutions that support the body rather than fight it. The goal is not to force a response, but to restore the conditions that allow the body to respond naturally. In the next part, this understanding becomes essential for explaining why some commonly recommended approaches help support the system, while others fail to activate it. Once men understand that erectile function is driven by circulation and not willpower, many take what seems like the most responsible next step. They improve their diet. They remove processed fats. They begin using olive oil, often based on medical advice or well-known nutrition guidelines. This choice makes sense. Olive oil has long been associated with heart health, longevity, and overall vascular support, especially in Mediterranean-style eating patterns. Olive oil provides important benefits to the body. It contains monounsaturated fats that help maintain healthy blood lipid balance. It also includes natural plant compounds that reduce low-grade inflammation and protect the inner lining of blood vessels from long-term damage. Over time, these effects help preserve arterial structure and flexibility. From a foundational perspective, olive oil supports the environment in which healthy circulation can exist. However, support alone does not always translate into noticeable functional change. This is where many men become discouraged. They do everything they are told is right. They eat cleaner. They switch oils. They commit to healthier habits. Yet their physical response does not seem to improve. When results do not appear, frustration sets in. Some assume their body can no longer respond. Others believe they need something stronger. In reality, the issue is not that olive oil fails to help. It is that olive oil plays a different role than most people expect. Olive oil helps protect blood vessels, but it does not actively tell them to open. It does not initiate vasodilation, the process where arteries relax and allow blood to flow more freely in the moment it is needed. Without that signal, circulation may remain limited even when the vascular system is generally supported. A simple analogy helps clarify this. Olive oil functions like high-quality fuel in an engine. It reduces wear, supports smooth operation, and keeps the system running efficiently over time. But fuel alone does not start movement. An engine also needs ignition. In the body, that ignition comes from a specific biological signal. That signal depends on the production of nitric oxide, a molecule that tells blood vessels to relax. Olive oil does not significantly stimulate this signal on its own. This does not make it ineffective. It means it cannot work alone. Understanding this distinction is critical. Healthy habits are not failing. They are incomplete. Once this gap is recognized, it becomes possible to identify the missing activation that turns vascular support into real blood flow. Once it becomes clear that olive oil supports the vascular system, but does not activate it, the next question naturally follows. What exactly creates that activation? What tells blood vessels to relax, open, and allow blood to move freely when the body needs it? The answer lies in a small but powerful signaling molecule known as nitric oxide. Nitric oxide plays a central role in how blood vessels behave throughout the body. It is produced by the endothelium, the thin inner lining of arteries and blood vessels. When the endothelium is functioning well, it releases nitric oxide in response to specific internal signals. This molecule then communicates directly with the smooth muscle cells that surround blood vessels, instructing them to relax. When this relaxation occurs, arteries widen. Resistance inside the vessel decreases. Blood is able to flow with greater ease and volume. This process is known as vasodilation, and it is essential for healthy circulation. In tissues that depend heavily on blood flow, including erectile tissue, this process is especially important. Without sufficient nitric oxide signaling, blood vessels remain more constricted, and the physical response becomes limited. Modern medicine has long recognized the importance of this pathway. Certain prescription medications work by supporting nitric oxide signaling in the body. They do not create desire or arousal on their own. Instead, they enhance a natural mechanism that already exists. This reinforces an important point. The body already knows how to produce erections. The challenge is maintaining the conditions that allow that system to function properly. Over time, nitric oxide production can decline. Factors such as chronic inflammation, metabolic stress, reduced physical activity, and general vascular aging can interfere with endothelial function. When nitric oxide availability drops, blood vessels lose some of their ability to respond quickly and fully. Circulation becomes less dynamic, and erectile response may weaken as a result. Focusing on nitric oxide provides clarity. Instead of vague advice or pressure-based solutions, it offers a clear biological target. Restoring function is not about forcing outcomes or overriding the body. It is about supporting the internal signals that govern blood flow naturally. By understanding nitric oxide as the master regulator of circulation, the conversation shifts once again. The goal becomes reactivating this signaling system rather than compensating for its absence. This understanding prepares the foundation for identifying practical ways to support nitric oxide production safely and consistently, which is where the discussion continues next. After identifying nitric oxide as the central signal that controls blood vessel relaxation, the next step is understanding how this signal can be supported through everyday choices. This is where vinegar enters the discussion, not as a treatment or medical solution, but as a dietary element that may help activate a process the body already uses to regulate circulation. Vinegar contains acetic acid, a compound produced naturally through fermentation. When consumed in small diluted amounts as part of a normal diet, acetic acid enters the bloodstream and interacts with metabolic and vascular pathways. According to the explanation presented, acetic acid may help stimulate endothelial activity, specifically by supporting the enzyme systems involved in nitric oxide production. The endothelium plays a critical role in vascular health. When it receives the right internal signals, it produces nitric oxide, which then tells surrounding blood vessel tissue to relax. Acetic acid is described as one of the compounds that can encourage this signaling pathway to function more efficiently. As a result, arterial walls may become more responsive, allowing blood to move with less resistance and greater ease. This process does not force the body into action. Instead, it works by reinforcing communication within the vascular system. When nitric oxide availability improves, blood vessels are better able to respond naturally to demand. This supports circulation in a balanced and gradual way rather than creating abrupt or artificial effects. In addition to its potential role in nitric oxide signaling, vinegar has been associated with several broader metabolic benefits when used responsibly. These include helping moderate blood sugar responses after meals, supporting digestive balance, and reducing low-grade inflammation. Over time, these effects can reduce stress on blood vessels and protect them from progressive damage. Lower inflammation and improved metabolic control create an internal environment where circulation can function more effectively. What makes vinegar particularly notable is its simplicity. It is familiar, affordable, and widely available. Unlike specialized supplements or complex interventions, it does not require dramatic lifestyle changes or large financial investment. This accessibility makes consistent use more realistic for many people. Importantly, vinegar is not presented as a miracle or a cure. It is framed as a biological trigger that supports a natural process the body already understands. By helping restore signaling efficiency rather than replacing it, vinegar becomes part of a broader approach focused on supporting circulation from within. This understanding sets the stage for exploring how activating and supportive elements can work together to create a more complete vascular response. After understanding the individual roles of vinegar and olive oil, the discussion reaches an important turning point. On their own, each ingredient contributes something valuable. Vinegar helps activate internal signaling related to blood flow. Olive oil supports and protects the vascular system over time. The real breakthrough occurs when these two elements are used together in a complementary way. This relationship is best described as synergy. Vinegar acts as the activation signal. It supports the processes that encourage nitric oxide production, helping blood vessels receive the message to relax and respond. Olive oil, on the other hand, creates the conditions that allow this signal to be effective and sustained. Its healthy fats assist with the absorption and utilization of compounds like acetic acid, helping them move through the body more efficiently. At the same time, olive oil contains natural antioxidants that help protect nitric oxide once it is produced. Nitric oxide is a fragile molecule and can be broken down quickly under conditions of oxidative stress. By reducing this stress, olive oil helps preserve the signal long enough for blood vessels to respond properly. Its anti-inflammatory properties also support endothelial health, keeping blood vessels flexible and responsive rather than stiff and resistant. A simple way to understand this interaction is to think of it as a coordinated system. Vinegar sends the message. Olive oil ensures the message is delivered, protected, and supported. Without activation, support remains passive. Without support, activation may be short-lived. Together, they create a more stable and reliable response. This helps explain why many men experience limited results when relying on olive oil alone. The foundation is there, but the system lacks a clear trigger. When vinegar is added thoughtfully, the outcome often changes. Circulation becomes more responsive rather than simply maintained. It is important to emphasize that this synergy does not force the body into action. It works with existing biological pathways. The goal is not intensity, but consistency and balance. Supporting both activation and protection allows the vascular system to function in a more coordinated way. By combining these two familiar dietary elements, the approach feels practical rather than extreme. It does not rely on complex interventions or dramatic claims. Instead, it focuses on restoring communication within the body. This understanding prepares the ground for the next discussion, which looks at how this synergy can be applied consistently and responsibly within daily habits. Once the synergy between vinegar and olive oil is understood, the next question becomes practical. How can this combination be used in a way that actually supports the body rather than creating confusion or inconsistent results? This is where structure matters. The strength of the approach lies not in complexity, but in clarity and consistency. The protocol described is intentionally simple. It does not rely on rare ingredients or extreme routines. Instead, it focuses on timing, moderation, and repetition. Vinegar is used in diluted form and consumed shortly before the largest meals of the day. This timing is important because it aligns with periods when the body is preparing to process nutrients and manage metabolic responses. Used this way, vinegar becomes part of a broader dietary pattern rather than an isolated action. Olive oil is incorporated through regular meals, often as part of a simple salad made with whole foods. Extra virgin olive oil is emphasized because it retains more of the natural compounds that support vascular health. When olive oil and vinegar are consumed together in food, their complementary roles are reinforced in a natural and familiar context. What makes this approach effective is not intensity, but precision. Small amounts used consistently are more valuable than large amounts used occasionally. The body responds best to repeated signals over time. This is why the protocol is framed as a daily habit rather than a short-term experiment. Consistency is the most common point of failure. Many people try a method for a few days, expect immediate changes, and then stop when results are not obvious. Biological systems do not work that way. Vascular adaptation takes time. Endothelial function improves gradually through repeated exposure to supportive conditions. By presenting the protocol as a structured routine rather than a quick fix, the approach gains credibility. It moves away from the idea of a home remedy and toward the idea of a disciplined wellness practice. This framing encourages patience and long-term commitment. It is also important to note that this protocol is meant to complement a healthy lifestyle, not replace medical care. Individual needs vary, and anyone with existing health conditions should seek professional guidance. When applied responsibly and consistently, this structured approach creates the foundation for gradual and sustainable improvements, which leads naturally into understanding what changes to expect over time. Once a structured and consistent routine is in place, the next question most people ask is when change should be expected. This is an important part of the conversation because unrealistic expectations often lead to disappointment and early abandonment. The approach described here emphasizes patience and alignment with normal biological processes rather than quick results. In the early stages, changes tend to be subtle and often unrelated to sexual function. During the first week, some individuals may notice small shifts, such as improved energy levels, a greater sense of warmth in the hands or feet, or clearer thinking throughout the day. These early signs are not random. They reflect changes in circulation occurring throughout the body rather than in one specific area. Improved blood flow affects many systems at once, which is why these initial effects are often general rather than focused. Between the 2nd and 4th weeks, more targeted changes may begin to appear. As the vascular system becomes more responsive, some men report improvements in physical responsiveness and natural arousal patterns. Morning erections may begin to return, and confidence often increases as the body starts responding more consistently. These changes are still gradual, and their intensity can vary depending on individual health, lifestyle, and consistency. By the 8th to 12th week, the cumulative effects of repeated vascular support may become more noticeable and reliable. At this stage, the body has had time to adapt to improved signaling and reduced vascular stress. Blood vessels that were previously less responsive may begin to function more smoothly. The key point is that these improvements are built over time rather than appearing suddenly. This timeline serves an important purpose. It helps prevent discouragement by setting realistic expectations. The vascular system does not repair itself overnight. Endothelial function improves through repeated exposure to supportive conditions. When expectations are aligned with biology, people are more likely to stay consistent and observe meaningful change. By anchoring progress to predictable physiological patterns rather than dramatic promises, the approach remains grounded and credible. It offers hope without exaggeration and reinforces the idea that sustainable improvement comes from patience, repetition, and respect for how the body naturally adapts. As the discussion moves from expectations to real-world application, it becomes essential to address safety. Any approach that involves dietary habits or lifestyle changes must be framed responsibly, and this is where clear warnings play an important role. Rather than weakening the message, these cautions strengthen it by showing respect for the audience and for individual health differences. One of the most important clarifications is how vinegar should not be used. Vinegar is acidic by nature. It is intended for dietary use in diluted form and within food. Applying vinegar directly to sensitive areas of the body can cause serious irritation and tissue damage. Skin in these areas is delicate and does not tolerate acidic substances well. Misuse can lead to burns, inflammation, and long-term discomfort. Emphasizing this boundary is not about fear, but about preventing harm. Additional care is advised for individuals with existing medical conditions. People who use blood-thinning medications may need to be cautious with dietary changes that affect circulation. Those managing blood sugar levels should be aware that vinegar can influence metabolic responses. Individuals with digestive sensitivities or known gastrointestinal issues may also need to proceed carefully. These considerations are not meant to discourage participation, but to highlight that bodies respond differently. Responsible communication means acknowledging limits. No dietary habit works the same way for everyone. Health history, medications, and overall lifestyle all influence outcomes. That is why this information is presented as educational rather than prescriptive. It is designed to support understanding, not replace professional medical guidance. Including safety reminders also builds trust. When potential risks are openly discussed, the message feels grounded and ethical. Viewers are more likely to engage when they feel respected rather than pressured. Hope is balanced with realism, and curiosity is paired with caution. This balance is critical in health-related content. It prevents unrealistic expectations and reduces the risk of misuse. By encouraging awareness and personal responsibility, the approach remains aligned with long-term well-being rather than short-term results. Ultimately, these warnings reinforce a simple idea. Supporting circulation is about working with the body, not experimenting on it. Thoughtful use, patience, and respect for individual needs allow the broader approach to remain safe, credible, and sustainable. This responsible framing prepares the ground for the final perspective, which looks beyond physical changes to the broader impact on confidence, vitality, and quality of life. As this journey comes to a close, it becomes clear that the message extends far beyond any single habit or biological mechanism. What began as a discussion about circulation and vascular health gradually revealed something deeper. The condition of blood flow is closely tied to how a man experiences himself in daily life. Energy, confidence, clarity, and emotional presence are all connected to the same internal systems that support physical responsiveness. When circulation improves, the effects are not isolated. They ripple outward and influence the whole body and mind. Throughout the discussion, one theme remains consistent. Decline is often accepted too easily. Many men are told that reduced vitality is simply the cost of aging and that nothing meaningful can be done. This narrative quietly removes agency. By contrast, the perspective presented here restores a sense of control. Small, consistent choices made daily can support the body in doing what it was designed to do. Not through force or pressure, but through cooperation. Erectile health in this context is not framed as a measure of performance. It is a signal. It reflects the state of the vascular system, the metabolic environment, and the level of inflammation within the body. When these systems are supported, men often notice changes that go well beyond intimacy. Morning energy improves, focus sharpens, and emotional engagement becomes easier. These shifts rebuild confidence naturally rather than artificially. The deeper lesson is about patience and self-respect. Progress follows a biological timeline, not a marketing promise. The body responds best to steady signals repeated over time. When expectations are grounded in reality, discouragement loses its grip. Each small improvement becomes proof that the system is waking up rather than shutting down. There is also an important emotional component. Regaining vitality often restores a sense of identity that felt distant. Men describe feeling more present in relationships, more motivated in daily tasks, and more connected to their sense of purpose. These changes matter as much as any physical outcome. The closing message is not about chasing youth, but about preserving function and dignity. Health is not something that disappears overnight, and it does not return instantly. It is maintained through awareness, consistency, and respect for the body. By understanding how circulation works and supporting it thoughtfully, men can move forward with confidence rather than fear. In the end, this is a story of renewal, not through extremes or shortcuts, but through informed choices and steady commitment. Vitality is not lost forever. It responds when the body is given the right conditions to thrive,